First, thanks to all the speakers and participants, particularly those coming internationally. Welcome to this country. And my name is Xiao. I am the founding editor-in-chief of Harvard Data Science Review, which is the flagship journal for Harvard Data Science Initiative. And now, if you see MIT here, don't be alert. Harvard and MIT are not merging. And this is just because Harvard University Press does not publish journals. They only publish books. That's how we team up with MIT, which has been a wonderful partnership. So I want to acknowledge that. And this particular session, I'm grateful to HDSI to start this winter workshop with a session organized by Harvard Data Science Review and with my wonderful, wonderful partner of crime, David Leslie, who is one of the most inspiring and hardworking editorial members for HDSR. As you can see, he put together an incredible program today. It's really an incredible program, and you will see how all the different perspectives. So what I decide to do in the next 2 hours, no, just a few minutes, that I'm going to go give a very quick rundown, showcase of what Harvard Data Science Review has been publishing on the big topic of AI. And particularly, we look back historically. Now, as you all know that the AI has happened so fast, 5 years ago now is like history. You will see how these articles are, how the things are evolving. And I think it'll be to showcase both the breadth in terms of discussion about debates about AI, but also kind of prepare for this incredible program, coming. See if I can move this thing work. Now, Michael Jordan, and for those of you who don't know him, he's really a phenomenal figure in computer science and statistics, who's credited by many for leads lots of foundation research in machine learning. And this was the article he wrote for our first inaugural volume. And I'm also grateful to him to be a co-founding co-director, and which really helped a lot to build this journal. But here the title, Artificial Intelligence, the Revolution Hasn't Happened Yet. I don't know if Michael's regretting now using that title. Maybe he does not. And so I'm not going to go through all the details. I'm going to go through very, very quickly. But later you can look at these slides. But the point that he was making then was very interesting, right? He, at the time of thinking about this AI field, in his mind, is really a new engineering field of planetary scale. It's about inference, decision-making, blending computer science, statistics, and consideration human utilities. You don't see anywhere generative AI there. Because that's the way he thinks about it. I think many of us probably would agree. And because the word AI has become so broadly interpreted, right? And I think his mind was rethinking the authentic kind of AI, which is much more to this now we probably call the AGI, right? So you can see, and there's this thing particularly I want to emphasize that, both in terms of the need to obviously using ideas from information, algorithm, data uncertainty, computing inference, and optimization. But the most important, I think that this is the key point, which I think will be reflected today. Focus will be on data from and about humans, so we'll require perspective from the social science and the humanities. And I think that's just incredibly important. And Harvard Data Science Review has always been trying to include every perspective in this whole broad, what I call the data science ecosystem. So just very quickly, we also have an article in the first issue by Stephanie Dick. If you don't know her, she is a historian of science, actually graduate from Harvard, incredible speaker. And she talks about the history of artificial intelligence, traced back to 1950. And you probably all know this history. And I know she emphasized this whole notion of the intelligence self is a moving target, right? And so that's lots of debates about that. Later we'll have more articles on what is intelligence coming. And later I want to emphasize last year when we had the 5th anniversary of Harvard Data Science Review celebration, she gave a talk, and I encourage you to take a look online. Then she traced back the history of artificial intelligence to the 1790 French Revolution. And initially, when I heard that, I thought, that might be a stretch by a historian. Listen to her, that she has some really deep points to be made. Right? So, and then, we had these philosophers and, data ethicists talking about these AI principles. And I'm going to just go very quickly because of time. And this article turned out to be the one of the most cited one to this day. And it simply was asking questions of why are we using these black box models when we don't have to? And you can see, and I'm always was fascinated by this. This was a kind of a short article that has been really one of the most downloaded one. I think of this primarily touched on issues like, how do we trust these black box models? Well, why do we have to use them? Obviously, when this was written back in 2019, we did not know that the black box now is all everywhere. So there's really a lot more discussion about how do we trust those things. Then literally, David Spiegelhalter's, and for those of you don't know, he has the coolest title of any professorship. He has a title called Professor of the Popular Understanding of Risk. All right, and you can see, and he wrote this whole article, Show Do We Trust Algorithm? And I guess you probably can read it and think about what he thinks. And these are all back just gradually over the time 2020. This is a really great one for anyone you are in the business. If you think about how to implement all these AI strategies or data science or whatever you want to do, I highly recommend this article. I think two of them actually run a consulting firm, and their whole point is you need AI data strategists, because these are people can communicating between data scientists and the business leaders because they have different values. So communication in practice obviously is a very important issue, right? We develop lots of things, but how do we deploy them? How do we deploy them effectively? That takes a lot more communication skills, right? So again, I just showcase that we also publish all these issues on, for the business impact. And then here is the incredible article by David Leslie during the pandemic, talking about the right directions, about how do you think about responsible AI innovation. At the time, it was a lot of contact tracing, right? All these issues. And I've said that David's article was the first article I noticed that the reference list, the author's last name is literally from A to Z. I counted every one of them. I think you had 10,000 words about it, just reference. This is what David does. So, listen to him. He has this incredible, spectrum. And again, I'm not going to go through this. You can talk to David about it. And then we publish articles like AI and the creativity. That has been a great topic now, right? Think about it. At that time, I think of the thought was how can the rest of us become more creative through AI? It was not necessarily thinking about AI itself being creative. And I think that's another issue now, all these hallucinations, maybe that's a creativity. Who knows, right? So, again, another article about trying to directly apply the in the business. What does it mean? So let me go again quickly. Let me just go now very quickly about this topic of what is intelligence. I think this is the one that every one of us have been thinking about. And so what we did is, obviously, that's a question everyone has their own answers. We basically interviewed several people. I think these people, if you don't know them, you can look them up. They're really what I call public intellectuals. Andrew Lo, who talk about from MIT, talk about intelligence is really captured as an adaptation that provides you with adventure of survival. And then we had from Steve Pinker, another public intellectual, he wrote lots of books. His definition of intelligence is ability to use knowledge to attain goals. If you look at that, it's pretty similar in terms of what they are doing. And particularly interesting was Steve Pinker has this comments about thinking, this early days, this is 2020, I think, 22. Thinking about it, well, what exactly is these all large language model doing? And here's a quote I always like to cite. He's basically talk about that, the machine can now look at the correlation and the correlation of the correlation and the correlation of the correlation of the correlation, right? What he's saying is that there's deep patterns that the human's brain cannot wrap around, but somehow we have the technology to really get that. That was really inspired me to write this editorial. I was thinking about, in some very common sense, what all these things are doing is essentially collecting what I call the Homo sapien intelligence, because it's a gigantic wisdom of the crowd. Now we have a way to find things sits there. This is a very recent article, but it's already already out of date in some sense because it's a couple of years old. Really think about how do we utilize this in, for example, political polling. Because, ChatGPT had the ability to collect ideas from the internet that could be terribly biased.
but how much bias it is compared to all the surveys. We know the surveys, most of them are biased because people choose not to respond, particularly in these election polls. You know how we suffered 3 elections in terms, at least the polling. And so you can see how those things compare, which is the conclusion pretty much is now, from their study, the ChatGPT, those things can be doing quite well in terms of getting the overall picture, but doing poorly if you dive into the more stratified, like a particular demographic group. I think that this essentially itself is ongoing research. As I said, although this 2023, there's even a lot more has already happened. And moving very quickly, now this was a special issue put together by David Leslie and Fran Berman, as well as Raphael Harrop. So 3 co-editors of mine for this incredible special issues. And David can explain why he chose this term future shock. And here is just all the articles. Again, I'm not going to go through detail, and everything is online. I think today's conversation, in some sense, is the continuation of this that we already started. And especially, I want to say that we had this idea of put together this policy forum, because every organization, every society, lots of places, universities put out some kind of AI policies in the last few years, and David's idea is to collect them, and we published probably 12-ish, and just incredible collection. And I highly recommend you read the editorial, but I have to warn you, the editorial itself is longer than all article together. It's literally true. I think it's 72 pages when I printed. Probably the longest editorial ever existed, but that's David. Now, for me, I think probably the most important one there, given I'm getting there, is can ChatGPT help your retirement? All right, this is from Angelo. I highly encourage you to read that. I'm not going to get to detail, but this is actually, I think, most people care about. Obviously, because he's a finance professor, he used the financial advice as the example, but in reality, essentially, is this human AI interactions. How do we take their advice seriously? What we do. I think we could hear a lot of those things. A lot of things today. With so much about AI, some of you may ask me, will there ever be a Harvard AI review? And because some people actually ask me, and I tell them probably not, because unless you like hair, but joke. But I do think this is a good one. This was generated by ChatGPT last night, and I said, oh, this is a great one, because I think we're going to hear a hair-raising debate today. Okay, and with that, I think then this is, I'm going to turn into David, and he's going to tell you all these people. But again, I want to thank all the speakers, particularly for coming all the way here. Thank you very much. By the way, I do bring a couple of copies, the hard copies of this. And so I'm hoping I'll be giving to the people who ask the most intelligent question. It can be better. And I will sign it so you can